Okay, so we all know that the Bears made that miraculous trade with the Carolina Panthers that has pretty much set the Bears up to where they are right now. Now, the Panthers have already benched Bryce Young this season. Not saying it's the end of the line for him as an NFL quarterback or maybe even this season, but that's where it is right now. Bryce Young was the only piece that went the other way. The Bears, on the other hand, had the rights to acquire Darnell Wright. They also got the first overall pick in this past year's draft, which turned into Caleb Williams, a second round pick that turned into Tyreek Stevenson, and maybe the best piece of them all was wide receiver DJ Moore. And they still have another pick coming along in the form of a second rounder for the Carolina Panthers for this upcoming NFL draft as well. Regardless of how Caleb Williams turns out, is this already a giant win is this like already a win? Has this trade been decided? And I want you to keep in mind this. Not only, like, you did give up the first overall pick in that draft, and it was Bryce Young, but in that draft
you passed on CJ Stroud.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Somebody asked me this the other day, or somebody said this the other day. Can you imagine if for whatever reason, like, and again, I'm not participating in the instant reaction nonsense. Like 4 games is nowhere close to enough time to decide even who's going to have the best rookie season, much less the best career. But if you played it out, could you imagine if you passed on C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels if he turns out to be a really good player as well?
Well,
I'm just saying, like, I can understand how people would be like, "Oh my God, we did it
in a
again."
moment, by the way.
Okay.
But listen.
Now, I don't believe that's going to be the case because I don't care about any other quarterback but my own.
But that's really fair to say when you look at everything they got, and don't forget, they got Torrey Taylor after they moved down from the pick with the Eagles.
You just piqued Meller's interest.
They picked him
So
up
then it's
with
a win
that
no matter what
fourth-round
happens.
pick. So my point being, you look at all of these names: Darnell Wright, DJ Moore, Tyreek Stevenson, Caleb Williams, Torrey Taylor, next year's second-round pick from Carolina. Could all of that be erased in history if C.J. Stroud and Jaden Williams become better?
Not if Caleb Williams becomes the player that we all think he can
Jaden
be.
Daniels. I mean,
like, let me ask you, to build on that.
Seriously.
Let's just say that C.J. Stroud, and more importantly, because many people believed if the Bears had stayed at 1, they would have drafted Bryce Young. I would have never drafted him. I said that at the time. His size really, really, really scared the hell out of me. But I don't know. But they did have the opportunity, deciding to keep the first overall pick, to take, if they wanted to, they could have taken Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams.
That's what I mean.
But my point is that, so if Jaden Daniels goes on and he's a fabulous player, but Caleb Williams goes on and also is a fabulous player, but maybe he's just even a tick below Jaden Daniels,
yeah,
I'm not going to be bothered by that.
Like in the moment, and I get a lot has changed since then, but if we rewind back to 2017, do you think... Now, I guess the Texans didn't have the opportunity to pick him, but if the Texans had taken Deshaun Watson over Patrick Mahomes, do you think they'd be kicking themselves in that moment?
Not at that moment. But now, I mean...
Yeah.
Well, now, obviously, it's different, but, like, if things were continuing on that trajectory of where things were...
Well, right. Your point is because I thought when Deshaun Watson self-sabotaged himself... I guess that's redundant, but he went sideways, so to speak. He was on the cusp of being an elite quarterback. He was a top 5 guy in the league. And then he did what he did, which basically completely sabotaged his football career. But he was on an arc, Peg, to be one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And I guess your point is had that arc continued...
Mm-hmm.
And you compare it to Patrick Mahomes, who I think has got a chance to end his career as the greatest quarterback who's ever played. I know people are down on him right now, but because of the start he's gotten, like Meller's down on him right now.
Not down on him. I'm just wondering how they're gonna figure this out this year. That's all.
To get back to your original points, like,
just be better than Jane Daniels, please, Caleb, please.
Well, I mean, but the trade has brought you a bevy of great stuff. it was a great trade.
It's not even done.
Yeah,
But-
but my point is though, Jeff, like what you got in return. Now it's up to you to use those picks constructively and maximize the return on those picks. Making the trade and acquiring those assets is part of the equation.
Yeah, it was a shrewd move.
Yes.
I think they did.
was a very
he did a
fortunate
really
move.
good job,
Yes.
and I can overlook even if CJ Stroud goes on to be the second best quarterback in the league, I can kind of overlook it
Because
as long
they were never trading, or they were never going to draft a quarterback with that.
it didn't seem like it, because they were still pot committed with Justin Fields for at least one more year. It seemed like it, to see what they had with him, didn't it? Like
Yes.
it's just the way they were
Yes.
at that in that spot. It always made sense to trade the pick. It was a good move there. So I can overlook CJ Stroud. However, if CJ Stroud goes on to be great and Jaden Daniels goes on to be great and Caleb Williams is not, I don't know what level he
it's
needs
gonna
to play
sting.
off.
It'll sting.
Forget Sting, like all the kudos that Ryan Poles has gotten over the last couple of years will fade away very quickly, and he'll be looked at.
As the guy who passed on C.J. Stroud and Jaden.
Yes, and I don't know if his career will survive it as a general manager.
History will not be kind
just-
to him.
Throw in there Justin Fields goes on to a great career.
He'll get credit for making a great trade. He will not get credit for being a terrible drafter if that is the case. And his quarterback evaluation will be very scrutinized as a result.
No doubt. Now, if you just tuned into this show, nobody's projecting that that's going to be the case. This was a hypothetical
Yes.
hypothetical question asked by Tyler.